Hey there guys, CD Mangaka back with another little bit of a breakdown video following up on my 6.7 patch breakdown that's hitting on live. We're going to be looking at Taric's new kit in this one. And so a couple things to strain right now is that we don't know the numbers in this kit just yet. We just know like how it works, although I suppose actually if I go to PBE we can see it. I think they're still working on it, but let me go ahead and try to pull that up. That's the champion update, 6.4 nodes, 4.5. Do we have... Okay, we got most of them, so cool. All right, I just thought of that. So what I'm going to try and do in this video is compare and contrast the new Taric's kit with the old Taric's kit. Kind of look at what old Taric was good at, what he was lacking at, and then what they're trying to do with new Taric. So taking a look at old Taric's kit, we'll go spell by spell. So old Taric kind of worked around as like this armor stack.
The jungle is no longer safe for you. I want him dead.
I hate the ads. The ads, they are real. All right. So his old passive, it's similar to what his new one is. It's scaled with 20% of his armor and dealt bonus magic damage. After that, he casts a spell and it reduces spells cooldowns by 2 seconds. So the idea of Taric was to hit people with your auto attacks and weave spells in between them in order to reduce the cooldowns and get more spells up. That's like a good premise, but the problem that this had with Taric was getting close to those enemies to begin with, which I still think is going to be an issue with him in terms of utilizing this passive, but he just also has like so much more utility. It's rather insane. So that's his old passive, so it worked with your next basic attack. His new passive, excuse me, I have to go up here. His new passive buffs your next 2 attacks. It gives you faster attack speed and it reduces the cooldowns of his spells and does increase damage. So what are the ratios on that? So his next will deal about 15 plus 5 per level and 15% of his bonus armor. Okay, so he still is going to have like this armor scaling to him. I think that's an identity that they want to keep within it. Reduces spells cooldown by 1 second and attacks in quick succession. So the reducing... So ultimately, it's sort of like... It's fundamentally the same, except like... Let's see. They're adding in a flat damage to it. So before you had to get armor for it in order to be scaling, but now they're adding in a flat just damage to it. So that's going to be doubling up, making his trading better. And then, but it's still going to have like the same cooldown on it just because of, okay, it's 1 second, but you attack twice, so it's 2 seconds. So you get 2 quick procs off of that and then the 1 damage on it. So, and that's assuming that you hit 1 target. You could theoretically switch between targets and attack both of them if you happen to be on top of them. So then his Q was imbue, so he heals target ally or himself. If he heals an ally, he heals himself the same amount. If he targets himself, the heal is increased by 40%. So this made, Taric like an okay sustained support. The problem that we see with other sustained supports, Raka has a shorter cooldown on her heal, Sona has an AoE heal to her. People just heal better than Taric did, and he benefited more by healing himself. So his heal now works as an AoE, so it orbits around him, it goes in and out, and then anyone within it gets healed. So it has a similar base to Sona. But there's another element to this that's explored in his W, and this is where we begin to see the shift in Taric's identity from like this high damage. I'm just quitting that site. I'm just done. I'm done with those ads, man. I can't take ads. I need a vaccine for my ads. So that's got fairly decent scaling and stores 1 to 2 charges. That's another thing too, is that his heal stores charges. So you want to, rather than spamming it, you want to be waiting on it so that your heal is stronger and you're getting more out of it for the same amount of mana, basically. And the heal on it, fairly okay. It scales off of health now, which is nice just because supports usually are going to go for health items like a Face of the Mountain, things like that. So the fact that, you can build, and Sightstone. So he's going to be scaling a bit with his health as he's building. So it's diversifying a bit from the old armor scaling that we had on him, which I think is nice. And then you get maximum heals of blah, 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 blah. And then Bravado, Empower Tech reduces recharge time by 3 additional seconds. So that's a nice interaction to know of. And so you can reduce this cooldown of about, I'm trying to find it. This is a 15-second recharge. I guess that's for the crystals. So you get like a full heal at like every 45 seconds. Yeah, so I guess it's 15 seconds that you get a crystal. And so this is trying to promote you to trade. Is what it's doing. It's saying that, hey, if you go and trade, you use a spell, and then you can auto attack, get your 2 procs off, you can reduce this, the Bravo bottom power and text by 6 seconds. So that's very nice. It's having this synergy with his heal. So if you're able to cast like you hit your stun, trade with it, you can reduce your recharge by 6 seconds and thus get to a bigger and more powerful heal. That's something that's very nice to do. And there's more ways and angles for Taric to play off of with his new W. So Taric's old W, it was it was Shatter. It did like this, I think it was like AP damage that was based off of Armor. And I think his RR did something like that as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I don't want to go back to that site. Don't make me go back. I can't do it. W Bastion. Now this is the crux spell of his kit that completely changes the champion. So what it does is that you can link yourself to an ally. Initially linking it is going to shield them and yourself. So already we're seeing that Taric is giving another tool to improve his laning trading, because now he has a heal to recover damage and a shield to block damage, and that shield and heal can be applied to both of his allies without having to have this choice in between the two of them. So that's something that's really helpful for him in terms of being able to trade. Now, he's not really looking like an engaged support. He's looking more like a counter-engaged support. Something that you'd look like with a Janna, just because he's not like a Leona who can do a long-range stun, then walk up, then dash in and throw in another stun and tank all these stats. He's looking more just like a peel-based champion that has a bunch of different options it can use. Now, the special thing with Bastion is that when you create that link with someone, all of your spells, and this is the key wording, all of your spells can then be cast from those champions. So this means that your Q, they show it here in the video, that means that your heal will now have 2 different AoEs around it. So you can, quite literally, if you can stay in range of one of your frontliners diving the enemy backline, you could chill with your backline, heal your backline, while your diving frontliners can dive in and also receive a heal. That's pretty big. This also applies, though, to stuns. Suddenly, Taric, and we'll talk about his stuns in a moment, he has 2 angles to work with his stuns. Which, speaking of which, let's talk about that. Now, one thing to note about this is that you have to be a certain distance between you and your ally. You have to keep close enough so that you don't lose this connection. And you can also rebind this connection to a bunch of different to different champions as the situation calls on it. So that way you're free to, move up, shield someone as you're peeling for them, or shield someone as you dive with them. So this gives Taric a lot of versatility and a lot of different options. This is something that old Taric really lacked. He had a very one-dimensional playstyle. It was stun, walk up to somebody, wail on them, shred armor, wail on them, or, wail on someone and attempt to peel for someone. But now he's got a couple of more unique options to him and different angles he can play off of. So his stun, it's getting the classic point-and-click treatment, which is to say that it's no longer a single target point-and-click spell, but instead it's a skill shot that does AoE. So it's no longer a guaranteed stun, so that means enemies can dodge it. However, it can stun multiple people within a line. This gives Taric less laning pressure in a sense, but it gives him an incredible boost in team fights, because now you don't just have one stun. If you have multiple, tanks and assassins diving your AD carry, and you could only stun one of them as the old Taric before, and that was not really enough, especially when you can have other supports like Braum, who can knock up multiple people with his ultimate, Alistar, who can do the same thing, Janna, who can monsoon and push everybody back. Now Taric has AoE CC, and that's something that we see out of most good supports. So it's already looking like I think Taric is going to be coming back into the meta, and he could be quite good as a disengage or even as a pick kind of a support. So, and again, this is going to line up and fire with anyone that he gets linked to. So you can see in this image here, don't know how well you can see it, that he fires this line E here, and he's connected to an ally here, and here's this line of E as well. Now there is one question I have about his kit, and it's about his ultimate, Cosmic Radiance. So his ultimate just was boom, it was massive AoE. And again, the problem with that is that it lacked utility as support, which is what most supports provide as utility. Instead, it had damage to it. And again, it was really tied up to armor. So, by the way, looking at the numbers here, his stun cooldown, it's a fairly long cooldown. Ready to beam of Starlight that after 1 second. So, again, you have to line it up, sort of be preemptive and predict with it. Can move or start after casting. It has a really high base value, has that armor scaling that we're used to seeing on him, and it has a fairly decent stun time of 1.75 seconds. So that's pretty good for him. His W, again, armor scaling. So we're, again, seeing that this armor identity of Taric is still being preserved. So that means that he's going to be less effective against magic damage heavy compositions because he wants to build armor in order to boost his abilities. So I think that, this could affect like when you pick him. Bless his allies, shields them for, oh wow, okay, that's how it works, of their maximum health, a percentage of their maximum health. So that means that he doesn't really have to worry about building health so much. This lets him kind of focus more on stacking the armor that he wants to have, and this synergizes really well with tanks. So this is something that makes you want to consider throwing it on your tank as he's diving in, just to give him that extra shield and even more of an AoE base to work off of, and apply your CC to the back line with your E. For 2.5 seconds, target Bastion lasts the target until a new one is chosen. The passive, Bastion increases armor by, it buffs armor as well. Taric's spells will also be cast from a nearby ally protected by Bastion. Lasts on the target until a new one is chosen. Right. That's all the effects. Now his ultimate. So there's a 2.5 second delay, and everyone becomes invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. So invulnerability, this is basically like Kale ult for everyone. And it's all AoE. Now my big question with this ultimate, fabulous skin updates by the way. Oh my gosh, Infernal Diana. Okay. SKT, and the SKT skins. I have to wait on this. I have to wait on that before I flip out. I want to see like his ultimate in use, because the one thing I want to know about his ultimate, okay, we know it's an invulnerability, we know how long it lasts, and you have to be preemptive with it and be really clutch, because it's not like Kindred ultimate where it's an instant cast so you can save allies. There is that bit of a delay. So if the enemy can rush it down and kill you before then, that would be crazy. Speaking of Kindred, this could be some really good synergy with Taric and Kindred. You throw the Bastion onto Kindred, then you can give Kindred a shield, then you can apply CC from them, and then you can literally cast the Taric ultimate, give yourself some invulnerability in a team fight, then use the Kindred ultimate. It's the comp that never dies. There can be some crazy stuff with this. It's really slightly frustrating to see Riot just go for like these very little counterplay spells, because you either wait out the invulnerability after it lands or you kill them before it happens. So I don't know how we can really go about nerfing that. Because the one thing with Bard's ultimate, because it also causes invulnerability in a sense, is that everyone gets stasis. The difference with Kindred's ultimate is that everyone benefits from it, and it creates this zone battle. Taric, it's just kind of like, hey guys, get close to me. If we can live this out, we're going to be invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. So, and that can be, that makes dives really safe. That can really swing a team fight. This brings Taric to a point where it looks like he has a bunch of new options. He has a huge team fighting presence, and he has more unique ways to approach the lane, but still has this counter engage kind of support, and as a sustained support. Just because I feel like it's hard for him to be able to walk up in some matchups and be able to hit people, especially against ranged supports, which aren't too popular right now, to be fair. But we're seeing Taric have some core elements of identity are changing, but it's finally taking away from that archaic idea of him having a bunch of damage, and he's being buffed up with a lot of utility that's meant to be used in a defensive manner. So this kit has a strong sense of identity. It keeps some of the old aspect of Taric's kits alive, and it gives him incredible presence in team fights through the AoE that happens. I feel like Riot, with their reworks, if we look at the most recent reworks, most of them have been really successful. A couple exceptions probably were Kog'Maw, but they changed him in a way, made him OP for 2-3 weeks. But Poppy, Gangplank, who was another rework that was major? A complete update. Not really the Juggernaut ones. Fiora, there we go. Most of the reworks that have been complete visual upgrades, kit overhauls, things like that, have been really successful, and those champions have seen play in competitive. And looking at what Taric brings in terms of sheer utility, I think we're going to be seeing him. I think that he's somewhat gated by the fact that, hey, he still wants to build armor in order to really be synergizing and to show up like he wants to. So against teams that are drafting AP heavy compositions, which to be fair aren't that popular right now, but could be given the nerfs to Maul Mortius and some of the AD champions. You know, it'll be a bit more situational. Like, hey, they have a bunch of AD on the team. But, you know, even thinking about that, right now when we think of the meta, we think of like the AD junglers, Kindred, Graves, Marksman coming out from there, some of the AD poke compositions that happen. Tark can be really good in some compositions. Like if Braum is taken away, then you can just pick Tark and he can stack armor and he can buff up people and kind of sustain against some of the poke rather than block some of the poke. So I think he's going to be fit really well into compositions facing anti-poke. He's going to be really good at peeling for his team, just with his AoE stuns and with the AoE invulnerability. I want to know if his invulnerability will fall down on his Bastion ally as well, because it says all of his spells. So I'm assuming that doesn't exclude his ultimate. So that means that you could split up and create two different, like, AoEs of invulnerability for people to catch on based on two different people. That makes it even more insane to consider. If that is the case, that should probably be something that Riot can start by nerfing him if Tar comes out and he's just absolutely ridiculous. So I feel like that would be like the first approach to nerfing Targ would be like, okay, what kind of options does he have with linking his Bastion to his ally? You know, maybe some of his spells, maybe some of like the effectiveness of spells from the Bastion will be reduced a little bit, making it a little more complicated, but we'll see how this really goes. I think it's a very strong kit. The numbers are probably going to be there for it. It's going to need a lot of tuning around though, but there's a core identity to it that does fundamentally work and cohesively make a play style. And that's something that old Tark, he didn't lack it, but it was an archaic playing style that just doesn't work with how supports have become after the introduction of Thresh. So thank you guys for watching this video. Happy to see this fabulous being come to the Rift for us. So this is going to be, I think, a bit of a game changer. So thank you guys for watching this video again. Please like the video if you did in fact like it. Follow me up on Twitter at CD_Mangaka. I also have a Twitch that I stream from. If you want to follow me on that, it's CD_Mangaka. No capital letters in that. So that's all my little social link shoutouts. I write for Slingshot Esports. I lied. I write for Slingshot Esports. If you check them out, it's a really good esports site. Lots of great Q&As, great content, and it's not just because I write for them. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy your day.